Good evening and warm welcome to everyone. Um, Everyone was eagerly awaiting the Q3 results, and we too were quite optimistic while presenting our earning preview. Looking at the overall performance, the numbers have come in better than expected. This should limit the downside risk for the market in the medium term. However, as market dynamics continues to evolve, it is important to understand which sectors have performed well and which have lagged. A sector-specific approach is now more relevant than ever. We have also screened and identified stocks that have delivered strong performance and appear attractive from a long-term investment perspective. So we will address almost all your queries towards the end of the session. So stay tuned for the next half an hour. We have seen greater amount of volatility in the market since last almost 3-4 days, and it is again on the back of uncertain news flow. And in fact, we are witnessing this uncertain news flow since last 1 month. And whenever there is a rally towards 26,000, 26,300, we see equal amount of weakness, profit taking, selling pressure, as well as news flow, bad news flow, we can say. And eventually we see again the market moving towards the levels of 25,000. So currently the markets are completely volatile and facing uncertain news flow. And whenever there is uncertainty, most of the time we have seen that traders tries to exit from the market and try to be on the sideline. So similar sort of trend we are witnessing. But while looking at the earnings on which Mr. Arun will focus, and I think based on those numbers, certainly the buying should emerge and eventually we should end up with making decent returns on our investment. So keep investing. That's the only theme that we are consistently emphasizing since last almost 3 months. And this time also we are equally confident that earnings will change this sentiment of the market eventually. But for the time being, we need to be like patient and we need to bear this particular volatility. So for understanding these Q3 numbers, which are very, very interesting, Arun is with us. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you, sir. Gaurav, can we have the presentation, please? Yeah, so good afternoon and good evening, everyone. So in today's presentation, we'll focus on how the Q3 numbers have come in, how the Nifty and the BSE indices performed. After that, we'll also look at some of the sectors which did better than expectations, which sort of missed our estimates. And, some of the stocks in the Nifty will also look at, how they have, if they have done better or below our expectation, and possibly I'll just talk very shortly the reasons for the same. Then we'll dwell into the detailed presentation for all the sectors, multiple sectors, in fact, and then we'll also share our preferred picks from different sectors. So that's the flow on the presentation. Now, just to start, one thing, first things first, basically that the Q3 numbers were better than our expectations. When you look at the adjusted EBITDA, now adjusted EBITDA here this quarter is far more important because there was impact of labor codes. Hence, the adjusted EBITDA and even the adjusted net profit numbers looks far better. In fact, that's a better way to look at it. So adjusted EBITDA for Nifty 50 indices grew by 5% on a YOY basis. This was slightly ahead of our expectations. Same with the case with BSE, adjusted EBITDA numbers. In terms of net profit, the outperformance this quarter was far more. That largely is because because the because EBITDA did better than expectation. Secondly, the other income factor was higher this quarter, and hence we see our estimate for Nifty 50 index was 2.5% YOY growth, whereas the adjusted net profit growth in Nifty 50 companies was 9.8% on a YOY basis, and same with the case with BSE 30 also, where our expectation was 6% and the growth came at 12.4%. Next slide. Now, in this slide, we have just very quickly highlighted, some of the companies where the companies have, outperformed or underperformed on the EBITDA level as well as the net profit. The below one is actually net profit numbers, not the EBITDA. So the above one is on the EBITDA per se. Now, if you look at this, we've talking about companies like say BEL, they did better than an expectation. The EBITDA level that was because of stronger than expected sales and margins. Power Grid did better because of better than expected capitalization of assets. Sun Pharma, meanwhile, did good because they performed strongly in innovative medicine division, and Ultratech because the cost was lower and the volumes were better than what our expectations were. In terms of underperformers, we look at Cipla. The performance was below expectation. That's largely because of lower US sales this quarter, and Coal India, where the employee costs were actually much, much ahead of what our expectations were. So that's the reason why they actually underperformed, on the EBITDA front this quarter. Now, again, a lot of companies like BEL, uh, we have got Ultratech Cement or Sun Pharma, outperforming on the net profit level as well. The reasons for them largely remain the same. For Axis Bank, net profit performance were better because of lower than expected provision. GSW Steel, there was some recognition of deferred tax asset, and ONGC saw lower than expected taxation during this quarter. SBI, the performance was much ahead due to higher than expected non-interest income. Next slide. Yeah. In terms of very short, we'll be discussing a lot of these later during the presentation, but very shortly, some of these sectors, how they performed this quarter. So consumers saw decent volume growth. These are some of the result takeaways. In fact, cement saw strong volume growth. Realizations were weaker. Banks saw improving credit growth. Capital good saw strong order inflows. IT services also saw modest Q-on-Q recovery in revenues. Pharma domestic sales were good. Real estate, the demand trend, broadly remain mixed, but we'll anyways be discussing all this later during the presentation. Next slide. Yeah, okay. Now, these are some of the sectors which actually was better than expectation or they were below our expectation. When you look on the revenue side, capital markets, insurance, oil and gas were ahead on the revenue front, whereas capital goods, electric utilities, gas utilities, and real estate underperformed on the revenue front. Similarly, EBITDA, when we look at EMS companies, internet software, and hotels, did better when it comes to the EBITDA or the operating profit in third quarter. In terms of net profit, banks, metal minings, and hotels did well, whereas construction material, that's cement, gas utilities, real estate, and renewable energy, that weaker than what our expectations were in this quarter. Next slide. Now let's just turn our focus, a little bit on what exactly, with respect to the economy and the valuations of the market, and then we'll talk on the different sectors. One that India's overall macro environment remains stable. If you look at the data points like the GDP numbers, you look at the CPI inflation numbers, even the PMI numbers, which comes in both for manufacturing services, and a lot of what other data points points out towards a very very stable macroeconomic environment in India that we believe should be supportive to the Indian markets. The government has been focusing on industrial and manufacturing activities, and even in the budget, there were a lot of announcements with respect to focus on manufacturing activities, and these measures we believe should support, these segments. In terms of consumption, when we look at last year, the government and the RBI took multiple steps to boost consumption. We had the last year when we talk about we had the revision in the tax slabs, we had GST rate cut, 125 basis point cut by the RBI, monsoons were good. So these are factors we believe should support consumption. They have already started to support, but we believe that should continue in the coming quarters as well. In terms of government capex, we saw government increasing the capex outlay in this budget, so that should also be positive for the economy. India-US trade deal has been a major thaw or a major problem for us, for the past almost entire year. But we have seen some positive developments on that front as well. Apart from that, we've also signed FTAs, including the one with European Union, and as per certain reports, we could possibly signing more trade agreements with other countries in the coming months as well. So these things lay a very strong foundation for the economy going forward. The only challenges right now, or the challenges what we see right now, stems one is from the geopolitical, challenges. There are multiple, geopolitical developments happening, so that continues to stay a bit challenging for the markets. The second is on the valuation front. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So valuations is something, if you look at the second point here, where we are looking at Nifty 50 net profit growth of 16% in FY27 and 15% in FY28. But if you look at FY25, the Nifty 50 index profit grew by around 6%, whereas this year we are anticipating growth of around 8%. Now, our markets trade at around 18 to 20 times on forward basis, on a P multiple basis. With 6%, 8% growth, the markets do seem expensive to a lot of FIs, and hence we saw a lot of FIs selling last year. In fact, January also we saw a huge selling. February after the trade US India trade deal announcement, we did see some positive flows, but then overall the flows from the FI so far in February has been mixed. Uh, One we talked about on the geopolitical development where there are challenges. The other is on the valuation. Now, this year or this quarter, we talked about EBITDA growth in single digit, while net profit growth was high. That also was partly because of other income. But we believe going forward in FY27, the growth rate for Nifty 50 indices should improve, and that should make our market again attractive. This year, FY26, there are certain segments within the Nifty 50 index that are seeing degrowth, and there are only few sectors which are actually driving growth. But going forward into next year in FY27, we believe that the overall, growth in this Nifty indices should be supported by almost all the sectors. So it should be a very broad-based growth rather than a very, very narrow, growth growth based on few sectors that we have seen in FY26. So these factors should support a market over the medium to long term. Definitely in the near term, yes, we understand, the global challenges do remain, uncertainty do remain. But from a longer term perspective, we are positive on the markets. And we see some degree of, stability now in the earnings going forward as well. Nifty 50, again, as I talked about, is trading 20.7 times on FY27 numbers and 18 times on FY28 numbers. We have done a bit of consolidation. And if the growth sort of returns back in, double digit for the Nifty 50 index, we believe the market will again sort of, start to look attractive for even for the FIS. Next thing. Let me talk on two sectors. One is on the automotive sector. So automobile sector, when we look at this quarter, now the key thing was that the volume growth was pretty strong this quarter, and that was largely because of the GST rate cut. So October, November, December, we saw very strong growth for most of the companies, and that percolated down to the very strong revenue growth for them. But in terms of profitability trends, when we look at it was mixed now, because while there was operating leverage from very strong volume growth, but the raw material prices and forex, sort of impacted earnings for some of the companies. And even when you look at select auto component companies also sort of did well during third quarter. Going forward, we are expecting that the volume growth for the industry across these segments, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and tractors and series, should be more in single digit in FY27-28. And this year, again, we see tire companies have been doing very well, except for Balakrishna, but most of the companies have done very strong gross and EBITDA margins this quarter. And we are assuming that the FY27 from auto companies will see a modest increase from operating leverage and better product mix. But again, we'll have to watch out because there has been spike in commodity prices. So that's one thing we have to watch out for. So we are selectively positive on the auto side. We like Mahindra and Mahindra. When one can also consider, Maruti and TVS Motors on declines. So these are some of the stocks that we like in the auto space. Next slide. In the cement space, from whatever companies that we cover in this space, the volume growth has been pretty robust at 17% this year. The realizations, however, were lower when we compare it to same period last year, and this resulted in lower profitability for several companies in this quarter. But when you look at 9-month period of this year versus 9 months of last year, overall the cement prices are higher by more than higher by 2%, and the fuel and power cost are actually down from the very highs that we saw in FY25. So FY25 was a challenging year for the cement companies. FY26, we are seeing good improvement in the profitability, barring this quarter. Yes, there were some challenges, but overall, generally, we see on a very low base, we see improvement in profitability for the cement companies. However, there is a lot of supply in terms of capacity that is coming in. So that would mean that the capacity utilization of the cement companies would continue to stay a little under 70%, which has been a trend in recent years. Further, there are aggressive expansion plans that I talked about, and also, market share ambitions where we have seen a lot of consolidation happening in the cement space. So that could also sort of, play on the margins. From a valuation perspective, we find most of the companies trading at pretty high valuation in this space. In construction material, we are positive on GSW Cement. So I'll stop here and hand over the call to my colleague.
Thank you, Arun. So next sector is metal and mining. So in this quarter, metal and mining has reported a very strong number above our estimates on the EBITDA and top line, bottom line front. Third quarter, the company has reported a 68% year-on-year growth on net profit and 28% Q on Q ahead of our estimates. And EBITDA front, we have seen 19% growth on year-on-year and 4% Q on Q. So basically, in this quarter, we have seen, decent rally in the steel prices. Not in the quarter after December, because, the government has again, did a safeguard duty, और जिसकी वजह से काफी अच्छा इम्प्रूवमेंट सेंटीमेंट क्रिएट हुआ, तो स्टील प्राइसेस थोड़े ऊपर गए हैं. अर्लियर थर्ड क्वार्टर में प्राइसेस बहुत वीक थे, तो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट थोड़ा मार्जिन प्रेशर आया था इन द ऑल स्टील कंपनीज. एंड बेस मेटल में अगर हम देखें तो काफ़ी अच्छा रैली हुई है, प्राइजेस अच्छे मूव हुए हैं. उसकी वजह से अगर देखोगे तो दैट वाज रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द नंबर थर्ड क्वार्टर, तो मार्जिन काफ़ी अच्छा बेटर आया था काफ़ी कंपनीज के. एंड ओवरऑल वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग कि for the steel company, fourth quarter will be good because I think margins bottom out, and again we will see a strong improvement in the margin front क्योंकि prices काफी अच्छे move किए हैं because of the safeguard duty. And apart from that, also we can see a good number on the base metal companies क्योंकि rally हो रही है उनमें, prices firm है. And going ahead, we are expecting on the Nifty front, metal company sector, 62% हमारा growth का expectation है for 26 and 31 में 27, 31% in the 27. So based on the domestic steel prices, domestic steel profitability rebound due to the safeguard duty and firm base metal prices. So over to Amit for the next sector.
Thank you, Amarjeet. I will speak on consumer staples and discretionary. Consumer staples and discretionary reported mixed set of numbers during Q3 FY26. कंज्यूमर स्टेपल्स में हमने देखा कि रेवेन्यू और वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ काफी इम्प्रूव हुआ है. इट वाज प्राइमरली एडेड बाय जीएसटी रेट कट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन and also due to grammage increases at different price points by companies. कंज्यूमर डिस्क्रिशनरी में हमने देखा है कि डेकोरेटिव सेगमेंट थोड़ा सा वीक था, प्राइमरली ड्यू टू एक्सटेंडेड मॉनसून एंड शॉर्टर फेस्टिव सीजन. नियर टर्म डिमांड पेंट्स का थोड़ा सा वीक रह सकता है क्योंकि थोड़ा सा डिमांड वीकनेस है, प्लस कंपटीशन काफी है सेक्टर में. क्यूएसआर एक और एक सेक्टर है जो काफी वीक है डिस्पाइट अ फेवरेबल बेस. नियर टर्म वीकनेस रहेगा क्यूएसआर स्पेस में. फुटवेयर में हमने थोड़ा सा हेल्दी ग्रोथ देखा है, स्पेशली फ्रॉम कंपनीज लाइक कैंपस एंड मेट्रो ब्रांड्स. In other important companies in consumer space, we saw ITC reporting resilient volume growth in cigarette at 7% year on year. और टाइटन ने काफी अच्छा ज्वेलरी सेल्स ग्रोथ दिखाया है विच इज एट 40% ईयर ऑन ईयर. ओवरऑल हमने देखा कि डिमांड ट्रेंड्स काफी स्टेबल हुए हैं, एंड वी हैव आल्सो सीन मार्जिन रिकवरी फॉर मोस्ट कंज्यूमर नेम्स. ग्रॉस मार्जिन हल्का सा डिक्लाइन हुआ है, 15 basis point year on year. This is far better than the gross margin in compression we saw approximately of 200 basis point in the previous 4 quarters. This is primarily because raw material prices काफी benign रहे हैं. एबिटा मार्जिन काफी इंप्रूव हुआ है बिकॉज सारी कंपनियों ने अपने एडवर्टाइजमेंट और प्रमोशन एक्सपेंडिचर पे काफी कंट्रोल रखा है. So overall, jewelry companies, Pidilite, टाटा कंज्यूमर, होनासा, आईटीसी और फुटवेयर कंपनीज ने काफी रेजिलियंट नंबर दिए हैं. हमारा जो इस सेक्टर पे हमारा अट्रैक्टिव व्यू है एट करंट जंक्चर एंड वैल्यूएशन, और इस सेक्टर में जो हमारे हमको जो कंपनीज अच्छे लगते हैं वो है गोदरेज कंज्यूमर्स, पिडिलाइट एंड ब्रिटानिया। वरुण बेवरेजेस कैन डू वेल फॉर द नेक्स्ट 2 क्वार्टर्स बिकॉज हम लोग एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं कि समर काफी सिवियर हो सकता है इस ईयर। सो दैट्स इट फ्रॉम माय साइड, ओवर टू पंकज।
Thank you, Amit. Good evening, everyone. So I'll take you through two sectors. The first on capital goods, जहाँ पर हमने जो ये results देखे, mixed trend देखा है इसमें. So if you look at the numbers broadly, थोड़ा patchy रहा है, largely on account of domestic revenues. So we have seen a 6% revenue growth in domestic market for most of our overall companies under our coverage. And this is largely driven by 3% decline in the domestic revenue from L&T. अगर ओवरऑल रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ की बात करें तो वी हैव सीन 12% रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ. दिस इज ड्रिवन बाय I mean strong international growth in case of L&T and all. If you look at other companies also reported decent numbers like BEL has reported 21% growth in revenue and BHEL reported around 14% growth in revenue. Order inflows has been quite strong in this quarter. There's a 39% YOY growth in domestic order inflows, and overall, if you look at 23% order inflows का growth देखा है हमने. BEL में डिफेंस ऑर्डर इन्फ्लोज अच्छे हुए हैं. L&T ने काफी अच्छा ऑर्डर इन्फ्लोज रिपोर्ट किया है. If we look at the growth कहाँ से आया है broadly in case of L&T, that is largely come from data center, metal, real estate and renewable segment से आया है. And international में भी काफी अच्छा ग्रोथ आया है. मार्जिन्स की बात करें तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा एक मॉडरेशन दिख रहा है. इसमें मिक्स ट्रेंड है बट मॉडरेशन फ्रॉम 25 लेवल्स इट हैज कम डाउन एंड इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू डिक्लाइन ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ द हायर कमोडिटी प्राइसेस. In this space, we like L&T, Cummins, and Thermax. Next slide, please. Next slide. या तो रियल स्टेट जहाँ पर हमारा सेक्टर पे ओवरऑल पॉजिटिव व्यू है रहा है. इनफैक्ट इसमें एक बड़ा रीजन है कि स्टॉक्स करेक्ट हुए हैं और वैल्यूएशंस पे अट्रैक्टिव दिखता है. लेकिन रिजल्ट्स की बात करें तो इन दिस क्वार्टर देयर इज अ मिक्स ट्रेंड इन प्री सेल्स. इस क्वार्टर में अगर जो लिस्टेड कंपनीज में वी हैव सीन 25% YOY डिक्लाइन इन द प्री सेल्स नंबर. इसमें एक बड़ा जो रीजन है DLF जहाँ पर काफी शार्प डिक्लाइन हुआ है ऑन अ YOY बेसिस इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्री सेल्स. बिकॉज DLF में क्या हुआ था, फर्स्ट हाफ में बड़े लॉन्चेस आए एंड जो दहलियास का लॉन्चेस जो बुकिंग आना था वो भी नहीं आ पाया. तो इसकी वजह से इस क्वार्टर में DLF में एक बहुत बड़ा डिक्लाइन आया है प्री सेल्स में. अगर दूसरी कंपनीज की बात करें तो वहां पर लाइक गोदरेज ने काफी अच्छे नंबर दिखाए हैं लेड बाय द लॉन्चेस. लोधा ने भी एक YOY 24% ग्रोथ दिया है. दैट इज आल्सो क्वाइट स्ट्रॉन्ग लेड बाय सम न्यू लॉन्चेस एंड प्रेस्टीज हैज कंटिन्यूड इट्स सेल्स मोमेंटम इन दिस क्वार्टर. बट ये सारे जितने पॉजिटिव्स हैं दैट इज बेसिकली ऑफसेट बाय द DLF प्री सेल्स. लेकिन यहाँ पर एक इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर हमें ये देखना है कि जो लॉन्चेस हैं दैट हैज लैग्ड फॉर मोस्ट ऑफ द प्लेयर्स. अगर फ्यू एक्सेप्शंस हम निकाल दें तो ओवरऑल जो लॉन्च की जो सिनेरियो देखी है वो थोड़ा इसमें लैग हमें दिखा है. सो इसके वजह से क्या हुआ है, जो पूरे साल का गाइडेंस जो कंपनीज पहले 20% लिस्टेड कंपनी जो गाइडेंस दे रही थी दैट हैज कम डाउन टू 17% ऑन अ YOY बेसिस. एंड इसमें जो डाउनग्रेड आया है ब्रिगेड एंड सिग्नेचर जैसी कंपनी से डाउनग्रेड आया है. इन्वेंट्री लेकिन अगर देखें इट हैज इंक्रीज नो डाउट इन द सिस्टम. इट हैज कम टू लेकिन दैट इज स्टिल मच लोअर देन व्हाट वी हैव सीन द हिस्टोरिकल हाई लेवल्स जो रहे मोर देन 2.5-3 times. तो वहाँ से काफ़ी अभी भी लो है. वैल्यूएशंस अट्रैक्टिव है. इट इज एट 5 to 8 times ऑन अ फॉरवर्ड प्री सेल्स EBITDA. लेकिन ये भी रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है कि देयर इज अ वीकनेस इन द इंडस्ट्री एंड द सेंटिमेंट इज वीक ऑन द इंडस्ट्री. सो दैट्स व्हाई दिस वैल्यूएशंस हैव आल्सो करेक्टेड. एट करंट लेवल्स जो डीएलएफ है एंड ब्रिगेड है, यहाँ पर हम देख रहे हैं बेटर वीजा वी अदर लिस्टेड प्लेयर्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ वैल्यूएशन. So these are our preferred picks as of now. Over to Rini.
Thank you, Pankaj sir. Now coming to specialty chemicals. So if I have to sum up third quarter for specialty chemicals in one line, I would say it was a mixed quarter, but the story is definitely not over. Out of the 18 companies we track, 6 reported year-on-year decline at EBITDA level, largely because demand na abhi bhi thoda soft hai. Pricing pressure also continues in some segments, and a few players are in heavy investment mode. But at the same time, 12 companies actually delivered double-digit EBITDA growth. So now what's happening? यहाँ एक small caveat है. A lot of this growth was driven by specific tailwinds like R32 pricing benefits, easy base effects, or project ramp ups. So it's not yet a full-fledged sector recovery. Management commentary also highlights China में over capacity है, weak global demand है, but there are early green shoots. China's anti-involution stance and India's trade progress with the US and EU could slowly improve the outlook. Stock prices have been volatile, valuations काफी जगह stretched लगते हैं. So we are staying selective. We continue to prefer relatively reasonably valued growth names like Acutaas Chemicals, Jubilant Ingredient, Neogen Chemicals, SH Kelkar, and Godrej Agrovet. Now coming to next slide, please. Now coming to pharma and healthcare sector. यहाँ क्वार्टरली यहाँ पर जो थर्ड क्वार्टर था वो लार्जली इन लाइन रहा. Hospital revenues grew about 13% year on year, whereas EBITDA was around 7%. But margins थोड़े pressure में रहे because new beds are getting commercialized. So यहाँ पे जब भी नए beds commercialize होते हैं, that always takes time to stabilize, right? So coming to diagnostics, they actually looked quite strong. 11 to 15% organic growth था, better sample volumes थे, and margin improvement भी था as discounting normalized. So we continue to like Apollo Hospitals and Rainbow in hospital space. From diagnostics, we like Dr. Lal Path Labs. That's it from my side. Over to Sumit sir.
Thank you very much. Moving to IT sector, IT sector is in limelight and everybody wants to know what's happening. First, I will quickly take up what has happened in Q3. So most large cap IT companies reported stabilization in revenue growth, with companies delivering 1 to 2% constant currency revenue growth on a sequential basis. मतलब एक क्वार्टर में 1 से 2% ग्रोथ की है लार्ज कैप कंपनी से. तो स्टेबलाइजेशन देखने को मिला है. तो आईटी सर्विसेज कंपनीज विटनेस्ड ए मॉडेस्ट सीक्वेंशियल रिकवरी इन रेवेन्यूज. और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात मैं बता दूं, ये क्वार्टर जो Q3 होता है ये इनके सबसे खराब क्वार्टर होता है एज कंपेयर टू अदर 3 क्वार्टर्स बिकॉज ऑफ फरलॉन्ग्स. वो सीजनल नेचर है वो बिजनेस का. सो इट्स ए सेक्टर थिंग. अब जो कंपनीज हमारे कवरेज में है उसमें जो ट्रेंड देखा गया है, जैसे HCL टेक ने स्ट्रॉन्ग ग्रोथ दिखाई है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, हाईटेक एंड रिटेल बिजनेस में. बट उसका जो फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज डिवीजन था वो वर्टिकल था, वहां पे डिक्लाइन देखने को मिली है. अगर इन्फोसिस का देखा जाए तो स्ट्रॉन्ग ग्रोथ देखने को मिली है इन फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज एंड लाइफ साइंसेज, लेकिन उसका हाईटेक एंड अदर सेक्टर वो लगार्ड थे. वो TCS has seen a decent to strong growth in most sectors और वर्टिकल्स, लेकिन BFSI और हाईटेक एक्सेप्शन थे उसके लिए. सो टेक महिंद्रा का रिपोर्टिंग स्ट्रॉन्ग टेलविंड्स इन टेलीकॉम, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड रिटेल. लेकिन तो ये एक जनरलाइज नहीं कर सकते कि सारे ही वर्टिकल्स अच्छे कर रहे हैं. हर कंपनी का अपना अपना फोटे है, एक्सपर्टीज है, उनके क्लाइंट्स उस वर्टिकल में कहाँ पे पोजीशनड है, उस हिसाब से उनको फायदा हुआ है. सो कमिंग टू जो एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर देखने को मिलता है आईटी सेक्टर में जिसको हर जने को ट्रैक करना चाहिए, डील विंस. तो डील विंस हमने Q3 में देखा कि थोड़े से पैची थे। पैची इसलिए थे क्योंकि जो डील विंस हुए हैं वो कॉस्ट ऑप्टिमाइजेशन से हुए हैं। उसका मतलब होता है कि कंपनीज ने एग्जिस्टिंग क्लाइंट से जो नेचर ऑफ डील है वो एग्जिस्टिंग क्लाइंट से लेके दूसरे कोई और वेंडर का बिजनेस इन्होंने ले लिया। सो इन नटशेल ये कंड्यूसिव एनवायरनमेंट नहीं शो करता है डेफिनेटली, बिकॉज आप दूसरे का शेयर ले रहे हैं विच इज योर कैपेबिलिटी, यू आर टेकिंग इट, दैट इज गुड, बट ओवरऑल मैक्रो एनवायरनमेंट जो सेक्टर का बताता है विच इज नॉट वेरी कंड्यूसिव सो फॉर डील विंस आर कंसर्न। सो डिस्क्रिशनरी स्पेंडिंग वो हम लोग काफी टाइम से एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे कि इम्प्रूव होगी, बट हो नहीं रही है अभी भी। कमिंग टू प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, ये अपन ने रेवेन्यू और डील विंस की बात कर लिया। प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी की बात करें तो वर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ट्रेंड्स वर स्टेबल फॉर मोस्ट आईटी कंपनीज इन Q3 एक्सेप्ट हेक्सावेयर टेक्नोलॉजीज एंड टाटा टेक्नोलॉजी, जहाँ पे शार्प डिक्लाइन देखने को मिला है मार्जिन्स में सीक्वेंशियली। अट्रिशन रेट्स वर ब्रॉडली कंट्रोल में थे Q3 में, तो ये काफी पॉजिटिव फैक्टर है कि इनके कॉस्ट प्रेशर नहीं बढ़ रहा है। सो ब्रॉडली नेट इनकम जो देखा जाए तो आईटी यूनिवर्स की हैज ग्रोन बाय 10% ईयर ऑन ईयर एंड 5% सीक्वेंशियली। इनका बिजनेस मॉडल कैसे इम्पैक्ट होगा आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस से। सो इन्वेस्टर से बोल रहे हैं कि अभी आप बेच देते हैं, क्वेश्चन बाद में पूछेंगे। सो दैट इज द आइडिया बिहाइंड कि भाई अभी मैं अनसर्टेनिटी में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना चाहता हूँ, मैं दूसरी सेक्टर में दूसरी बेटर कंपनी जहाँ पे रेवेन्यू विजिबिलिटी ज़्यादा है, आई विल प्रेफर इन्वेस्टिंग देयर रेदर देन स्टिकिंग एंड सेलिंग इट लेटर। तो जो एक प्रोवर्ब है कि अगर आपको पैनिक करना है तो पैनिक जल्दी करिए, लेट नहीं। सो दैट इज व्हाट हैपनिंग इन द सेक्टर। सो आईटी कंपनीज आर फॉलिंग डाउन बिकॉज ऑफ द अनसर्टेनिटी कि उनके रेवेन्यू मॉडल कैसे इम्पैक्ट होंगे। हमारा ऐसा मानना है कि इनकी जो अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ है वो 2 to 3% हिट होगी बिकॉज ऑफ जेन एआई, एंड दिस विल कंटिन्यू फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 years. So that is what we have already priced in our business models or on our valuation sheets. सो हमें लगता है कि कुछ पॉकेट्स अच्छे हुए हैं, लेकिन अनसर्टेनिटी के कारण हम बोलेंगे कि आप दूसरे सेक्टर्स में बेटर कंपनी जहाँ पे रेवेन्यू विजिबिलिटी ज़्यादा है वहाँ इन्वेस्ट करिए। नेक्स्ट प्लीज। कमिंग टू ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर्स बीट और Q3 FY26 एस्टिमेट एट द रेवेन्यू लेवल, तो एक्सपेक्टेशन से बेटर आया है। ऑपरेटिंग प्रॉफिट ऑफ कोटक ऑयल एंड गैस यूनिवर्स हैज इंक्रीज बाय 11% ईयर ऑन ईयर, 4% सीक्वेंशियली, विच इज गुड। एडजस्टेड पैट जो यूनिवर्स है हमारा उसका इंक्रीज हुआ 19% ईयर ऑन ईयर एंड 7% सीक्वेंशियली। जब मैं एडजस्टेड बोल रहा हूँ इसमें हमने काफी वन ऑफ्स निकाल दिए हैं, उसके बाद एडजस्टेड नंबर दे रहे हैं टू मेक इट ए कंपेरेबल नंबर। सो ब्रॉडली इस सेक्टर को 3 पार्ट में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, अपस्ट्रीम, मिडस्ट्रीम एंड डाउनस्ट्रीम। मिड अपस्ट्रीम में ऑयल प्राइसेस ऊपर जाएगी तो ओएनजीसी ऑयल इंडिया को बेनिफिट मिलेगा, और आज के मार्केट में वही देखा था कि क्रूड प्राइसेस हैव मूव्ड अप, तो इनको काफी अच्छा शेयर प्राइस मूवमेंट देखने को मिला है। सिमिलरली क्रूड प्राइस ऊपर गई तो डाउनस्ट्रीम स्टॉक प्राइस अकॉर्डिंगली रिएक्ट कर रहे हैं। सो ब्रॉडली आपको क्या करना चाहिए इस वक्त, उन कंपनीज पे फोकस करना चाहिए जो डाइवर्सिफाइड हैं और जिनको केवल एक ही बिजनेस नहीं है और डिफरेंट बिजनेसेस हैं जो उनको टेक केयर करते हैं अगर एक डिवीजन खराब करता है, लाइक रिलायंस इंडस्ट्रीज। वहां पे ऑयल एंड गैस भी मिल रहा है, टेलीकॉम भी मिल रहा है, रिटेल भी मिल रहा है आपको, रिटेल। सो अगर ऑयल एंड गैस खराब करता है तो टेलीकॉम और वो उसको सपोर्ट करते हैं। हमें लगता है कि रिलायंस का जो कंपनी ने गाइड किया है उस हिसाब से जून से पहले आईपीओ आना चाहिए ऑन द टेलीकॉम साइड, विच विल बी पॉजिटिव। एंड इसके लिए आप लॉन्ग टर्म आप इसको एज ए इन्वेस्टमेंट थीसिस पकड़ के चल सकते हैं रिलायंस में, बट शॉर्ट टर्म में जीआरएम प्रेशर और रिफाइनिंग मार्जिन वी नीड टू सी कैसे पैन आउट होते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द जियोपॉलिटिकल कंसर्न्स। अगर हम FY26 की बात करें तो वी एक्सपेक्ट पैट ऑफ ऑयल एंड गैस निफ्टी 50 इंडेक्स टू ग्रो बाय 13.5% सपोर्टेड बाय रिलायंस एंड ओएनजीसी। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, ओवर टू वी।
थैंक यू सुमित सर। हेलो टू ऑल, अ वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून। अगर हम बैंक्स की बात करें Q3 में, सो Q3 वाज अ गुड क्वार्टर फॉर बैंक्स, गुड क्वार्टर ऑन वेरियस मेट्रिक्स। सो फॉर बैंक्स विच वी कवर, ये क्वार्टर में जो पैड ग्रोथ था स्टूड एट क्लोज टू 9.5% लेवल्स, Net interest income growth for banks which we cover was close to 5% level. This was relatively lower than the loan growth which they reported on a YOY basis. Now interestingly ये quarter में जो center owned bank है PSU banks इनकी PAT growth was close to 17.5%, which was materially higher than the industry average. So it was a very good quarter for center owned banks, and this is the reason why we are seeing a good rally in all these PSU bank spaces. If we go quickly go through the key metrics ये quarter में, so loan growth की अगर हम पहले बात करें, so ये quarter में we have seen a solid revival in loan growth for all these banking players. And going ahead, we expect this momentum in loan growth to continue. Retail MSME ये दो segment जो है from many quarters, this has been driving the overall loan growth. ये quarter में on a positive side जो large book hai, they have also started contributing. Whether this will sustain or not, that is something which we will have a key eye on. But this is certainly a positive for the systemic loan growth. Margins for this quarter for banks remain broadly flat on a sequential basis. And going ahead, we expect the margins to remain flat in the short term. So जो repo rate का negative impact होता है margins पे for banks, this is now largely behind, and that now we are not seeing any major downside risk to margin. In fact, in couple of quarters, we can start seeing good upside momentum in margins also for select banks. Slippages की अगर हम बात करें, quality of book for banks remain good. In fact, gross stage 3 level पे a lot of banks have reported improving GNPA ratios, which we cover. So that's a positive sign. The worst of the stress in the unsecured retail, in the microfinance is now behind us. Small business loan जो segment है, that is something which is still not out of the blues. वहाँ still we are seeing stress. But ये जो segment है anyways don't have a very big exposure for banks. So overall asset quality angle maybe banks have done good, and the outlook is also quite positive. ये जो large banks है, that is something which we continue to like over the center-owned banks at this stage, because center-owned banks का re-rating काफी हो गया है, and therefore the margin of safety is a little lower. Barring SBI, we continue to remain quite positive on SBI. Mid-sized banks may Federal Bank is something which we like and continue to like. We like how they're implementing their strategy very nicely. And also finally, small finance bank jo space hai, that is something which we continue to like. I think we believe this could be a good tactical play at these levels, and therefore that's something also which investors can consider. So this was on the banking side. Now, if we quickly move to the non-banking finance spaces. Now, NBFCs have reported also quite strong set of result in Q3. ये काफी varied segment होता है, and therefore obviously select NBFCs reported moderation in credit growth and asset quality. But overall, NBFCs का performance in Q3 was quite good. If you look at the top NBFCs, BAF and Chola, both reported inline set of numbers. If you look at vehicle financials like Shriram Finance, again they reported a decent set of numbers. Shriram obviously looks very interesting both from a business point of view and also from the new investment which they got. So that's on the vehicle finance part. Gold financiers, they reported a very strong growth on the AUM, on their loan book and also on their margins, thanks to the good gold rally which we have been seeing in the past few months. Valuation concerns है हमें gold financing play में. So that's why we are a little negative on that part. But business side में they have been doing really good. NBFCs में the large NBFCs is something which we like. BAF Shriram is something which we can pick for our portfolios, long-term portfolios. And also ये जो segment है which is affordable housing finance. Now, affordable housing finance, these stocks have corrected quite sharply from their peak, and valuation comfort हमें दिखता है. Yes, from a business point of view, we cannot firmly say that we have a strong revival story there. But some players like Home First, they have already shown revival in their loan book, and therefore Home First would be one of an interesting re-rating play which we like from the NBFC space. So this was on the financial services part. Yeah, now to sum up, these are some of our top picks from across these sectors. Now, at a time like this, when there's a lot of uncertainty around, where it is the news flows and sentiment which is driving the share prices, we stick to saying the fact that it is better to stick with high quality fundamental names where you have good margin of safety. And these are some of the stocks which is a good filter for what I just said. And therefore, if you have a long term view, these are the stocks which you can keep an eye on and invest as a part of your portfolio. So that was it from my end, and I hand over Rini for the Q&A now.
Thank you, Veer, and thank you, team. We will now open the floor for Q&A. So drop your questions in the chat box below. Starting with the first question we have from Rajesh Bani. So Rajesh Bani is asking, is it the right time to build portfolio? If yes, which sector is preferable? Sumit sir, can you help with this query?
Yeah, sure. That's a very important and relevant question at this point in time. और जो मार्केट वेटरन्स हैं उन्होंने कहा बाय व्हेन देयर इज ब्लड बाथ ऑन द स्ट्रीट, तो अपना पोर्टफोलियो बनाने का बिल्कुल सही टाइम है. बट शुड आई इन्वेस्ट 100% एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम? नो, आई डोंट थिंक सो. आपको स्टॉक स्पेसिफिक, सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक फोकस करके एक अच्छा पोर्टफोलियो ले डाउन करके उसको ग्रेजुअल बिल्टअप करना चाहिए. आपके मार्केट वोलेटाइल है, वो आपको उसको एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल रही है, उस वोलेटिलिटी को आपके फेवर में यूज कीजिए. जैसे ही आपको कोई अच्छी कंपनी मिल रही है, जैसे कि हमने इतने अच्छे अच्छे टॉपिक्स बताए हैं, अगर आप इनमें से कुछ इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो ग्रेजुअली पोर्टफोलियो का बिल्टअप कर सकते हैं. थोड़ी थोड़ी क्वांटिटी बाय करिए ऑफ दीज क्वालिटी स्टॉक्स. आप अपना खुद का एनालिसिस भी यूज कर सकते हैं. इनमें से जो स्टॉक्स आपको पसंद है वो लेके एक लॉन्ग टर्म पोर्टफोलियो क्रिएट कर सकते हैं. अगर आपने इसकी पोर्टफोलियो को देखा हो, जो टॉपिक्स को देखा हो, तो इसमें क्या है, सब में ये मार्केट लीडर्स हैं अपने अपने सेक्टर्स के. तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है जो लीडर्स हैं वो जैसे ही रिवाइवल आएगा दे विल बी द फर्स्ट वन टू मूव और दे विल बी एबल टू रिकवर इट वेरी फास्ट. हमने बहुत सोच समझ के ये टॉपिक्स निकाले हैं. इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव यही है कि आपको क्वालिटी स्टॉक्स मिले जहां पे रेवेन्यू विजिबिलिटी काफी अच्छी हो. और ये कंपनीज वो हैं जिन्होंने पास्ट में ऐसे डाउनफॉल्स देखे हुए हैं, फिर भी बिजनेस को ऊपर रिवाइव करके लेके आए हैं. दे हैव द कैपेबिलिटी, दे हैव द मैन पावर, दे हैव द स्ट्रेंथ एंड दे हैव एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द बिजनेस कि इसको कैसे रिवाइव कर सकते हैं. सो ब्रॉडली दिस इज द राइट टाइम. सेक्टर स्पेसिफिक भी जा सकते हैं, हम पॉजिटिव हैं बीएफएसआई, और जैसा कि बताया दूसरे सेक्टर्स पे हम लोग पॉजिटिव हैं. ऑयल एंड गैस में हमें रिलायंस अच्छा लगता है, ओएनजीसी अच्छा लगता है, वो भी आप देख सकते हैं. और इन स्टॉक्स को आप एक शॉर्ट टर्म पर्सपेक्टिव से मत लीजिएगा, लॉन्ग टर्म पर्सपेक्टिव लीजिएगा. और जैसे जैसे डिप पे आपको एक्यूमुलेट करते जाएंगे इसको, एक अच्छा हेल्दी लॉन्ग टर्म पोर्टफोलियो क्रिएट हो जाएगा आपके लिए.
Thank you, Sumit sir. Moving on to next question. Deepika Yadav is asking for view on HDFC Bank. इसके लिए I'll go to our NBFC sector analyst Veer Trivedi. Would you like to answer this query?
Yeah, sure, Rini. So on HDFC Bank, we certainly like the stock. Here we have a fair value of 1050 on HDFC Bank. The stock has corrected quite sharply from its high levels, and therefore we have a very good valuation comfort at this level on HDFC Bank. So valuation comfort is one thing. Secondly, if we talk about the business growth prospects, now Q3 was a steady quarter for HDFC Bank where the earnings growth was close to 11.5% level, where the loan growth was also good at 11.5% level. The margins improved on a sequential basis. LDR ratio is something which the bank is trying to reduce from the very high levels of 100%. It wants to take it down to 88-90% odd levels in the short term. So its trajectory is something which market has a key eye on. But we are of the opinion that they should eventually get at that level in the short term. And as I explained in my banking sector outlook, that the outlook for banking itself is quite positive, be it on loan growth, metric, or asset quality. And HDFC Bank, being the one of the biggest player in this space, is bound to benefit from it. So yes, probably not a very good time for investors in HDFC Bank, but it's certainly a stock which we like at these levels, and you should hold it. And you should hold the stocks and even enter at these levels for decent returns in for a 1 year time frame.
Thank you, Veer. Next question is for our auto sector analyst, Arun Agarwal. Salim is asking for view on TMCP.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Which stock you said? TMCV. Okay. Okay. So that's Tata Motors commercial vehicle. See, overall, when you look at the past few months, and especially after the GST rate cut, which came in September, the commercial vehicle sector has been doing well. तो आप लास्ट 4 या 5 महीने का अगर आप डेटा पॉइंट्स देखेंगे तो जो भी प्लेयर्स हैं कमर्शियल व्हीकल में टाटा मोटर्स, अशोक लेलैंड एंड इवन वॉल्वो आइशर जो जॉइंट वेंचर है उनका, उन्होंने अच्छा परफॉर्म किया है, वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ अच्छी रही है। एंड हमें लगता है कि ये जो ग्रोथ है हम देख रहे हैं कमर्शियल व्हीकल में आगे के कुछ महीनों में भी पॉजिटिव रहेगी। सो हमारा टाटा मोटर सीवी बिजनेस जो है या जो कि मेन आप टाटा मोटर शेयर है वहां पर हमारा पॉजिटिव व्यू है। बट जस्ट एक चीज है कि स्टॉक को थोड़ा करेक्शंस में रहता है ऐड करें बिकॉज स्टॉक्स में एक अच्छी रैली आ चुकी है। तो जहां जहां आपको करेक्शन स्टॉक में आते हैं तो वहां पर आप उसे ऐड कर सकते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए।
थैंक यू अरुण सर। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम पंकज, उसको 2-3 स्टॉक्स पे क्वेरी है और मान्यवर, बाटा एंड जेनटेक। सो नाउ जेनटेक तो कवरेज में नहीं है। फॉर मान्यवर एंड बाटा आई आस्क अमित अग्रवाल एंड पंकज कुमार टू टेक वन ईच।
I'll first take Bata. Bata, we have a buy rating with a target price of 965. अगर आप लास्ट बहुत सारे क्वार्टर्स का नंबर्स देखें तो बाटा का परफॉर्मेंस काफी वीक रहा है, बट Q3 FY26 was a good quarter for almost all footwear companies, including Bata. We saw almost mid-teen revenue growth and mid-20s profit growth for most of the companies. And companies have also given a good guidance for the upcoming quarters. तो जीएसटी रेट कट हुआ था सितंबर में, उसका बेनिफिट इनको भी मिला है। We have also seen Bata focusing on high-end labels like Hush Puppies and Power, which have delivered robust growth and supported the margins. कंपनी ऑल्सो एक एसेट लाइट स्ट्रैटेजी की तरफ फोकस कर रहे हैं और एक फ्रेंचाइजी मॉडल की तरफ फोकस कर रहे हैं, और 27 फ्रेंचाइजी स्टोर्स कंपनी ने इस क्वार्टर में ऐड किया है। और कंपनी का टारगेट है ऑलमोस्ट 100 to 150 फ्रेंचाइजी स्टोर्स पर क्वार्टर। इन्वेंट्री एफिशिएंसी भी अचीव की है इस क्वार्टर में, कंपनी ने ऑलमोस्ट 11% रिडक्शन दिखा है इन्वेंट्री में। तो ओवरऑल हमें लगता है कि जो नेक्स्ट फ्यू क्वार्टर्स है वुड बी गुड फॉर ऑलमोस्ट ऑल फुटवेयर कंपनीज, एंड वी आर पॉजिटिव ऑन बाटा विद अ बाय रेटिंग एंड अ टारगेट प्राइस ऑफ 965।
Pankaj sir, would you like to talk on
Yeah,
Manyavar?
yeah, sure. So Manyavar ka, if we look at the results was tepid only because of the weak consumer sentiment, and also there were fewer wedding days in the month of December. Uh, if you look at the company's strategy, also they are also rationalizing their retail presence, and they are focusing on higher growth locations in terms of retail outlets also. एंड अगर आप ओवरऑल जो सेक्टर की बात करेंगे तो अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड places also they are seeing a lot of consolidation, so that is good for Maneuver. And अगर स्टॉक की वैल्यूएशन की बात करें, the stock has seen a very sharp correction, and most of all these negatives what we have seen in the last few years have been factored in the current stock price. So after this decline, we believe there's an upside potential in the stock. So we have an add rating on Maneuver from long-term perspective with a fair value of 500 rupees.
Thank you, Pankaj sir. Now that was the last question for the day. Due to time constraint, we will end the session here. Thank you all for joining us. Your feedback means a lot to us, so please share your thoughts in the comment section below. And before we wrap, a quick reminder, stay connected with us on Telegram, Instagram, and Twitter for regular research updates and stock ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.